6:31 p.m. Welcome Nottingham to the December 2nd, 2024 Board of Selectmen meeting. We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and so glad the storm that went north of us did not hit us and impact our budget for 2024. Still got plenty of salt. Cool. Manifest and payroll for, oh, you're just in time, Chairman.
Wow.
I thought it was gonna be bad late.
Couple minutes.
We
That's
prepped
all.
for 10 to 15 just to be safe.
Could have waited. Yeah. You missed the pledge, that's it.
Cool. We'll let you get settled.
Ready to roll.
We just started with minutes.
Anybody want to make a motion about that?
I'll make a motion.
Questions?
No.
Oh, yeah, actually, I do have one question. Just, the electrician looked at the well
At
stuff
Marston.
or whatever.
Yep.
At Marston.
Correct.
Was there any resolution to that, or?
We're still working on it. So the pump that feeds the irrigation system over there was a three-phase pump, and we've phased it down to single phase because we never put three-phase power in over there. I'm not sure if that's the cause. We just got the November invoice, and the kilowatt usage was the highest that it's been all year. I mean, even thinking back to July. So, he's going to, take a look at it in the spring when he starts everything up and just see if maybe like they can tone down the amount of irrigation, but we don't want to compromise the quality of the fields either. So we want to make sure that they're getting plenty of water. So we're not sure if that's the root cause or there is an exterior outlet. We don't know if somebody's plugging into it. I mean, that's an awful lot of consumption to be taking place.
Yeah.
Where was this, what irrigation plant?
At Marsden.
Is it three-phase up the road?
Is there three-phase up the road?
At the road.
At the road? I don't know. I don't think there is, because it was investigated when they put the power in over there, and it was gonna be too costly to put it in, so I would assume it's not close by.
Find that hard to believe.
Yeah, so,
Is
I,
that co-op or is that public service?
it's co-op.
The metering station's just down the street.
So the gentleman that looked at it, that did the electrical service over there, is a representative for Eversource, so he's doing some behind the scenes research. We might have to get co-op involved and just see. I mean, their pricing schedule is a little bit different. I mean, it's the same base rate regardless of the consumption, but we did have the additional usage. I think it was like 888 for middle of October to the middle of November. And I think July, the peak usage was like 740 or so. So it does seem like something's off. Not off, something's on, obviously.
All right.
But, yeah, we're still trying to get to the bottom of it and find out what exactly is there. We did disconnect the electric heater, so we won't have that. Part of what I was gonna report in my town administrator's report tonight is the newly established public water supply was shut down for the season. We're seasonal operation from, I think it's April to November, so everything was winterized, so there'll be no well pump draw. We got rid of the electric heater over there because there's really nothing, there's no reason to heat the water.
So it should basically.
It should-
better go down to.
It should go
base
down to the
amount.
base of like $35 a month, starting from November 5th, in the next billing cycle, which will be November 15th to December 15th, so. If that's the case, then we're in good shape. If not, then, I still think that we need to figure out what happened this past month.
But does co-op read the meter every month?
Yes.
Or do they do?
They do.
They do have it's all electric, wireless.
So even when you look back in comparison to prior years, we did have some higher peak usage months, but you would find that it was during summer when
Right.
Probably
we were watering more.
to call the co-op and ask them to manually read that meter. Could have been an error.
Mhm.
Oh, these meters are pretty foolproof.
No, they're not. We like to think they are, but
It's either that or we have like a ground somewhere.
That's kind of what,
Most likely maybe a rodent got into one of the areas and we have a small ground that's just,
sucking power.
or there's a crack and the well pump's just running continuously, trying to feed a pressures, a leak somewhere.
Yeah, I would hope we would have figured that out. But- Okay, all right, thank you.
But
Sorry.
Gary, no, that's fine. Gary Cohen, I spoke with him last week, just before the holiday, and, he said that he would take a look at the pump in the spring when they reactivate everything. He had just winterized everything 2 weeks ago. He didn't seem to think that there would be anything really triggering from the pump for the irrigation system, but like I said, he was, yeah, absolutely.
If there was a leak someplace.
Right. But he was gonna at least check the cycling of it next year when he starts it up and see if maybe it's cycling more than it should be. And then just to determine how often it should be watering.
Other than that, I have no issues with the manifest. Sorry.
I make a motion to approve the manifest for November 25th, 2024, and payroll for November 26th, 2024.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes?
You're the one that usually has little things on, so.
The one thing I saw, looks like it was already taken care of, the, inaudible person. So I'll make a motion to,
I do have two
okay.
minutes to make.
So, good.
Sorry. Lines 201 and 202. Changed, I'm looking at the draft. So, it says the building maintenance reserve fund is at $150,000 that could be used towards road reconstruction. That's an accurate
I
statement.
don't think that is either.
I don't know exactly what was said at that point, but could not be, would be the appropriate.
I think that was in the conversation that we were having about paving the walkway out to the playground. Whether or not that could be used, and we made the determination that it's to be used on the buildings only, not the grounds.
yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah, it should just be,
That was in here someplace too.
Well, you could always,
We were talking about the warrant articles and using them. That's probably the one that shouldn't be.
we could
Yeah.
just, we could strike the line altogether.
because line 295 is what you're referencing.
Yeah, I'm for striking it, that'd be a great thing.
Okay.
And then line 282. They are not recycling the recyclable bags. I thought we had said they were more expensive and we're looking for a cheaper vendor.
We're not reusing.
We're not reusing the recyclable
Okay.
bags.
Yeah, they're getting recycled.
Yeah, they are getting recycled.
But not, yeah,
Yeah.
Right, we have to use the correct plastic bags and it goes as one
Right.
unit now, where before we were like,
we're recycling multiple times.
That's all I had.
Anybody else?
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of 11:18 as amended.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Did anybody mention that our tax rate went down $1 per thousand? Nice little feature. Right? So if you have a $400,000 home, your taxes go down about $400, so. It went down $1, Steve. My math can just go out the window on that one, but just generally, it went down $1 from where it was, the tax rate was last year. Thought we'd see more on Facebook about how great that was, but, no one wanted to be positive about it, so, whatever. All right, so moving on, we didn't have any planning board meetings, so I don't have anything to report for there. Anything else as we go around the board?
We had budget committee meeting after our last meeting. It was one of the quickest budget committee meetings I've attended yet. They wanted us to present more of a refined budget to them before they went and started cutting anything else. So, but we did review the challenge with the warrant articles and the totals for what can be raised for taxation and the balance that we're trying to create. So our next meeting is on Thursday, this Thursday, the 5th of December, to review the school budget and then any updates that we have from this evening. And then the rec department, they've got the Nottingham holiday parade is this Saturday at 10 a.m. Show up at 9:30. The roads will be closed. Usually they start closing around 9:55, so and usually parking is a challenge. And then the craft fair is from 10:30 to noon.
Who in the board, are we all making it for the parade?
I'll make it.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I cannot attend.
I guess so.
Okay, so we'll have 4. Okay, good, yeah. It's gonna be a chilly one, so make sure you're wearing your hats, 'cause
I know.
not gonna be the warmest morning, but. Okay. We're gonna walk, we always walk.
Very cold.
Yeah, very, not cool, cold.
Okay, appreciate it.
To build off that, continue on this Saturday, the 7th, the Nottingham Fire and Rescue is doing their tree sale. So that'll be at the fire station for the Fire Association as a fundraiser. And on December 14th, the Santa ride will be going through Nottingham. The route and stops for Santa's letters will be posted later on soon.
Perfect.
Wednesday's the blood drive. Wednesday.
Yes,
Thank you.
the fourth, it starts at, I think it's from 10 to 4.
That's gonna be here in this building, right?
Correct. Yep, it'll be in the
Yeah,
gym.
blood drive. Good.
All right, CIP, looked at the library, for ADA accessibility stuff, with Steve Rollins, that was last Friday. Steve was gonna look at some elevations and stuff and kind of come up with what he could do to help save us some money. We did not have a meeting this week. We should have one. Is it next week? Are we gonna?
Yes,
For sure. Okay.
Monday the 9th, 5:30.
All right. So our next meeting is next. Also, the town of Nottingham and the PLIA did not get that grant. I forgot to mention that last week, or last meeting, the water study stuff. So,
Really?
not get that.
Oh, that's very surprising. Good. Town administrator report?
All right. You already kind of touched on the tax rate. We finalized it on, the Friday prior to the holiday, and we got the director approved rate on Monday. So the total tax rate is $20.46. How that breaks down is $3.83 for the municipality, 90 cents for the county, $14.04 for local education, and $1.69 for state education. So the town went down 20 cents, the county went up 6 cents. Local school went down 80 cents. State education went down 4 cents. So I think it was like a 98-cent difference. The tax bills were printed last week and mailed today with a due date of January 7th. We just wanted to make sure that we could get around The bill date they can't be due sooner than 30 days from the date that they're billed, and we just wanted to make sure we got around multiple holidays between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, so. They were mailed today. So Tuesday, January 7th, that will be the first day that Tracy's in the office after the New Year holiday, so, office hours. Because it does fall on one of her regular office days, there's no plan for extended hours, and plus there was like an additional week of leeway given, so.
I will say, if you go to the property tax
Kiosk.
site, the kiosk, you can sign up to get those electronically, so you don't have to wait in the mail. You could have gotten your bill nice and early.
We got it
I believe I
today?
got it on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, last week, yeah,
Yeah.
from my mailbox.
No, I got it electronically last Wednesday.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
nice and early.
I didn't look at my emails from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but.
Just a shout out to the website, there's a nice breakdown of the tax rate on your town website.
Thank you. I would like to take credit for it, but it was set up by my predecessor. I just plug in the new information.
It's very informative.
I kind of touched on the public water supply at Marston. It was winterized 2 weeks ago, and I just wanted to announce that we are required to do regular water testing over there. It's part of being a public water supply. We have to test it, so it gets tested quarterly or monthly. Some are monthly, one's annually. Dale Sylvia, as our health inspector, has been conducting the water testing and driving over to Concord. And I just wanted to report that all the tests that were done on the system this year were satisfactory. There was no concerns.
Usually it's stopped, the weather's why it's stopped.
It's a seasonal use. We shut it down for the winter. If by chance there was a need for us to reactivate it as a public water supply, all we have to do is just go in there and reverse the winterization end of it, and we can have water available to residents. We had discussed, as we were going through the budget, there are several workstations and the town server that need replacement. Some of the departments have put in requests for computer replacements. Initial quotes that I received were about $850 to replace a workstation. It was tossed around, I don't remember if it was a budget, no, it was at the select board meeting. We had talked about maybe using ARPA funds.
No, we talked about it, I think, at this,
Was it this meeting?
yeah. I
Okay.
think
We had talked about potentially using ARPA funds to take on something like that, because if, rather than doing maybe 2 or 3 workstation replacements this year, we have several that are dated 2013 or 2015. They're just several years old. They do become a risk for security compromise, and the server especially needs to be replaced. It's at the end of its useful life, and it's getting more difficult for our IT company to serve it. So I had them pull together quotes for the replacement of everything that was 5 years or older, including the town server. What we're looking at for the server, based on the amount of information that we store on it and the amount of workstations that are tied into it, the server replacement's $7,120. They also recommend upgrading the network switch and the firewall, because those are also out of service. That would be another $2,474. So we knew it was gonna be about $10,000 for the server replacement, and we're just shy of that. For a combination of PCs and laptops, because it really depends on whose use, like Alana, our land use clerk, would prefer to have a laptop because she brings it in for the meetings. Same thing with myself, we use those as standalone workstations. Whereas, Lori was looking for an additional workstation for the town clerk's office, and I have 3 in the town office that need to be replaced. Courtney has 2. So for a total of 8, that would be another $7,033. So we're looking to upgrade all of those computers, which would take care of everything in one whack, at $16,627. Just wanted to put that out there for consideration for something that we could earmark those ARPA funds, which have to be committed by the end of this year. The current balance of the ARPA funds uncommitted is $62,498, of which you loosely reserved about $30,000 to do the conference room renovations, to swap spaces. I don't know that it's gonna come in that high, because realistically, all we're doing is we blew out that wall. They need to do some spray foam insulation, sheet rock it, paint it, and then, the lighting and the carpet squares. So I've asked Alan Trant to just pull together what those figures would be, so we can get a final figure to commit for that, but I don't know that it's going to exceed $30,000. I hope not. I don't anticipate that it will. So that would be something, I did go through the last budget revision, and I had just pulled all those individual workstations out of the, budget requests for the various departments, as we were trying to trim things down.
Sorry, to go back to the back room, have you had any luck with the, AV equipment?
Yes, yep. That was next. Doug Cummings has been extraordinary. He's come here and he's met with, we've had 4 vendors that have come and looked at it. One of them opted out because it's really a project. They do a lot more like home audio visual stuff, even though the gentleman we spoke with had been in the commercial application before. So we have 3 companies that have quoted it so far. Realistically, what we're looking at is it's probably gonna be a 2-phase project to bring in microphones, cameras, all this switch gear to upgrade it. A lot of the stuff is antiquated. They can't even get parts for it anymore. We're looking at, I think the quote that we have right now for the company that we're looking to go with is $29,000. Now that doesn't upgrade the broadcasting equipment that's in the storage room. We're probably looking at $20,000 at a minimum to do that. So that's why I'm saying like phase 1, phase 2. The cable franchise fees, there was a warrant article to reserve 30,000 of those fees to use to upgrade and keep this equipment maintained. So we have $30,000 in the fund right now. And if, you know, if we potentially use most of that, when we get the cable franchise fees, again, on an annual basis, we're getting about 37 to 38,000 a year, then that fund would replenish the 30,000, and that's where it caps off at. So that's why I'm thinking it's probably gonna be 2 phases to at least get that room up and running, and then worry about the broadcast equipment.
Do you think there's a chance that our meetings for a period of time could not be broadcast because of the?
No.
No, okay.
Yep. I think worst case scenario, it might be really, it'll probably look like a spider web in there, but we could potentially just do some temporary runs and maybe move this over there. If
What's
we
the
had to.
timing of that?
What's the timing for the new system? Well, as soon as we award a contract, because it's a contract of that size, it's going to be, we're at their liberty. I think one of the company that we're leaning towards, I think they can probably get it done by the first of the year. Time is narrowing down, so I just have to solidify things with them. Doug and I met last Tuesday and did an apples to apples comparison and just made sure that everybody was in line, so now it's just to the decision made. And kind of with that being said, I reached out to Comcast, who's our phone and internet provider here and for all the town facilities. I got a hold of our government relations representative because I've been struggling looking at the bills every month, and everyone's due at a different time, and everything's at a different rate, and everybody's at a different internet speed. And I said, there's gotta be a way that you can you must work with governments big and small. So I was able to get in touch with the right person, and we're going to roll out, so everybody's on at least a 300 megabyte speed for the internet service. So that will be a huge upgrade for places like the recycling center, which is struggling to even process a credit card right now. And even in this building, being the local emergency operations center and your town government. So with that being said, lumping everything into this special government contracted pricing, we're looking at saving anywhere between $400 and $500 a month. So I'm just waiting for the contract processing to roll through, and that will be, you know, across all facilities, but still that's a significant savings. And hopefully it will clean it up and streamline the billing process a little bit better. So the reason why I reached out to them was to talk to them about, potentially upgrading the fiber into this building to move it into that back room so that we're not stretching it further down and potentially losing quality when we do the broadcast. That is all I have for my report.
Any questions?
Pretty
We're gonna
good.
be right back talking about it in 2
Yep.
seconds
I know,
anyway.
that's why.
There's nothing else to,
Move on. We have no assessing. With the action items from last meeting. None, just basically none, because it's all budget. Let's get into our budget review.
Oh, I did have follow-up on the, legal proposals. I spoke with both, Drummond and Woodsum and, the Soul Firm, not Barbara Lohman, Diane Garo at the Soul Firm. So both are at $2.45 an hour. That would be pretty much what we're paying per hour for general legal services, whether it's a planning board matter or, you know, a question. The time that it gets into those specialized rates is if we need to have like an employment law lawyer defend us in a case or something, that's when we'd get into those specialized rates of about 310 plus. It sounded more to be the case with Drummond and Woodsum than the Soul Firm. The Soul Firm was pretty set at, you know, we're 245. When I did speak with Matthew Surge, the attorney for Drummond and Woodsum today, he said that 2025, they will be increasing their hourly rate to $2.55 an hour. Whereas there was no indication of an increase for the Soul Firm. So other than that, you know, I had posed the question as to whether or not you wanted me to introduce both the firms out to come and meet you and do a meet and greet. So I still put that out. Both were in favor of doing that. I think probably for cleanest transition, if you are looking to make a change, then to do it on the calendar year. So again, you know, we're 3 weeks from there, 4 weeks, 3 weeks and a holiday week.
So potentially our next meeting.
I'm mistaken.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
it makes sense if they can get here.
They're gonna be coming in.
Hopefully on the 16th.
All set?
I am.
How do you guys wanna tackle this?
Do you want me to go through what I've given you for information?
Sure.
Okay, we have our operating budget. This is as it was presented by the department heads. And then with the few revisions that you made at the 11/18 meeting. I've updated the actual expenditures as of 11/27 and included the proposed default budget. For consideration, I did get some clarification on items that we were gonna try to include and others that we couldn't. I can go through that once we get there. In your folded packet here, this larger sheet is the capital reserve and expendable trust fund balances. And then in that, I included balances of the ARPA funds, the Senate Bill 401 highway funds, those are the extra block grant funds, the Senate Bill 401 for municipally owned bridges, and the building repair expendable trust fund. Giving you a list of potential warrant articles, a quote for paving for 2025 potentially, and the very draft CIP plan, which the committee is gonna be meeting on Monday, and hopefully they'll be toward a point where they can provide their recommendations to you for consideration, but there are a couple of warrant article items listed on that I just wanted to plant as we're talking about warrant articles.
some of the things you were mentioning earlier, like server, the conference room, the audio, video, some of that. You were mentioning some stuff, but like the conference room, so we still have to use the
We-
building repair fund. I just wanna make sure where, if I'm looking at these numbers, where you're expecting some things to come out.
So the ARPA funds have to be, they have to be committed in full by the end of the calendar year this year. Doesn't mean they have to be expended, but we have to have a project or an expense committed for them.
Correct.
The building repair expendable trust fund is simply a savings account.
Okay.
It's reserved for that, so we add money to it and withdraw as necessary to cover expenditures as they happen.
Yep.
So that will be a carry forward balance. The Senate Bill 401 funds for both the highway and the bridges, those are recurring, not recurring, but they're in there until they're fully expended. I don't anticipate additional monies coming into those. We had 2 allocations for each in 2022 and then 2023. And then, I think that was it. Building maintenance, ARPA, and the 2 other funds. So these are just, I wanted to make sure you had those balances, so as we're trying to plug figures into the operating budget, if there is an alternative source for funding, then to have it all there for consideration. So the only ones that I did not include would be like any type of a rec revolving balance, because Courtney handles those.
Yep.
And, the ambulance as well, because that's just,
Yep.
billing versus expenditure.
The Senate Block 401, you're saying that wasn't refunded by the state?
Correct.
You don't expect any additional funds from that going forward? And then, towards the ARPA funds, you were talking about the 16 or 17,000-ish total for all server computer funds through everywhere. And you said you made the adjustments to this to pull?
Yes, I took them out. There were several departments, like Lori for the town clerk
Yep.
had a new workstation in there, Courtney had 2. I think I had 2 or 3 in mine, and we didn't have the server in there at all. So they're pulled out of the operating budget for consideration, and I'm hanging them out there as an ARPA potential.
All right. And then roughly for the 30 for the conference room. like
Correct.
this. And then the audio video for that room.
Will come out of the cable franchise fees, which that's not on there either. That's, there's a fund with, a special revenue fund with 30,000 in it.
Okay. And then the broadcast one will be the 2025
Correct.
cable funds.
And so that's why you're hoping it's less than 30K for the
Yes,
conference room?
Yes.
We're not, don't have that much.
right. Exactly. And if something comes up in the next couple of weeks where we're trying to figure out where to fund something, then those ARPA funds are a good thing to lean on. I just don't want them to expire either
Right.
and not be used. So,
No,
I mean, if
definitely
there is
not.
something larger, could we potentially fund the conference room upgrades out of the building maintenance expendable trust fund? Yes, but I would also rather have that for, you know, a catastrophic failure, should one happen.
Right, but putting the server and the conference room on there still leaves 15.5
Right.
in that fund, which is a ton of money that with the speed of.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong column. I was looking at the 43.
No, yeah, that was the truck. I'm just saying at the speed of town government, we should have 1 or 2 things
Yeah.
thought of in there because we have a next meeting and then they're gonna expire, so.
Right, right, so yeah, we need to spend this stuff. Okay, so there's 30,
How much money is left in ARPA?
60K.
62,498, of which 30,000 is loosely reserved, so technically 32,498.
And then if we took half of that for the
But then it's
server equipment,
right,
yeah, so
16.
then you get 16 left.
So, next meeting, come with all your ideas for little things on what you think for that, cause I mean, we might be waiting for something catastrophic, but we need to use it, right? It is definitely a use it or lose it type of thing, so what's,
Or even if it's to, you know, I mean, we used ARPA in full to fund the police
That's what I
cruiser.
was just thinking, is maybe we should try and get a cruiser early, take it out of the budget.
Yep, there's only 16 left.
Well, yeah, but
if you
Put the
take a
computers- then you
$40,000
put the
cruiser out of the
computers back in
budget, and we buy it now, and then we budget for 16 for the server upgrade
Right,
into the budget.
Yeah.
But it would be good for potential default budgets for something like the cruiser to be in the budget, if that's how we're doing it. But there are other things like the fire department John Deere that they use for woodland rescues, or the police department has an ATV that they use for rescues. Those are getting long and many, long in years, or like the rib boat for the fire department. Any of those, if we could, an ATV could potentially be 15,000. I'm just, I don't know if it's a need. It's just something like we gotta just look at what we need to, anything the departments might need. This is kinda like your Christmas fund. We gotta come up with a way to use this. If the budget numbers don't look right here, then we can pull something out to spend, but the time is ticking. The next meeting is the 16th, and then it's Christmas, and then it's like people, if we think about it next time, we're gonna have to wait to get people to tell us costs on things, cause technically if it's over a certain dollar amount, we gotta get three quotes, so.
On the larger spreadsheet that you handed out, the town building maintenance and repair fund,
Yes,
says total account value at 187,456.
yes.
So a lot of the, this was the third quarter report.
So the stuff that came,
Yeah, so technically the 2024 expenses didn't get approved by the 2023 expenses that we made out of that building maintenance expendable trust fund didn't go through the trustees until July of this year. So a lot of last year's expenditures still need to be withdrawn and reimbursed to the town. And then, of course, we have another 74,000 that you've approved so far in, up through Q3 expenses. So it's a good thing because the money's been sitting there earning interest, but
Right.
it is technically due to us, due back to the general fund.
and so that's where the $91,000 comes,
Correct.
that's after all of that.
Yep.
That's more accurate.
Yep. And I was looking at the Q4 expenses, and I don't think that there'll be a lot, if any, come out. I'm still waiting to see what, Alan has pulled together, like if he had to do any repairs, but I don't think he did.
So do you guys wanna tackle this? You wanna tackle warrant articles, or you wanna tackle, we got three things on here: warrant articles, default budget, and operating budget.
Default's probably the easiest.
Let's-
It's a default budget. The only thing that I could reduce the number by was, $1,000 from the supervisors of the checklist. They purchased 2 new laptops, so that was a one-time expenditure. Per the RSA, the only thing that we can add in there are contractual obligations. And that pretty much means a contract that was approved and ratified by town meeting, not necessarily a contract that you as a board of selectmen entered into. So like our waste management contract, our hauling contract, we extended it. You did it at the board level, so that's not technically a contractual obligation that we can increase the default budget. However, I was told that our working facilities manager position, because that was a position that was approved by the voters, that they gave you the authority to contract with a facilities management company or person, that can technically be added in.
That's the yellow on page 5.
Yep, the yellow. Additionally, the only other things that we can increase are New Hampshire retirement contributions and workers' comp, because we are required by law.
Going page 3 though, what's that? Lease. The number's the same as.
The PD retirement and the fire department retirement. So we can increase it to match the contribution, the New Hampshire retirement contribution rates.
Okay, you just didn't have it.
I didn't have it adjusted because the wages are technically still the same in the default budget.
just a percentage of the wages.
Okay.
And then, the other item that I had to reduce was the, principal and interest for, the landfill note that we paid off in 2024.
Default is flat.
It's $40,000 higher to add Alan's
Yep.
position into it.
30 once you subtract it out of the others. Okay. That sounds done.
Yeah.
So what was the bottom line after you pulled out, or is this the bottom line?
The bottom line is the $4,878,584.
Sorry, I thought we done with
We're
default?
moving, he's saying we're moving on to operating now.
So for the operating budget, the 2025 BOS meeting number, is that with the removed, the PCs removed? Or is
Yes.
that- okay.
I think there may have been one that was in there. Not. Yes, it's still, nope, I did remove it, I removed it for Lori. And then I think rec.
I know it's probably just a dollar amount.
Nope, the one for the rec is still in there, so it would be on page 10. Sorry, this one didn't print with the line items on it. About 2/3 of the way down, it's a $3,200. We'd have to reduce that by 2,000, so that would be 1,200.
Said page 10, what?
Page 10, about 2/3 of the way down, it's a $3,200 line item. Director and program supervisor need computer upgrades ASAP. It was, so $1,200 of that is just their office supplies. The other $2,000 was for those PC replacements.
And then just on the default, I'm not sure how much it matters, but for the general assistance lines,
Yes.
What page you
on page 9, didn't we change that during the budget process?
We did, we added it back into the operating budget, but we can't do it for the default budget because it wasn't part of the operating budget. So your default is essentially your 2024 approved operating budget, less any paid debt or one-time expenditures plus contractual obligations, so, because it was a separate warrant article, we can't add it into our bottom line.
No, the general assistance, not Cornerstone.
Oh, okay.
The lines above that, they were broken out before into each of those.
Oh, into
And
the
this is where
individual
I don't know if
items?
it matters, that's how it was, and then we changed it during the budget process to be a total of $6,700.
Right.
I just don't remember what the default amount was for each line item, but I think we lowered it.
I think we did too.
Probably the total of all of them equal that 67.
No, I think we lowered it.
Yeah, it was originally,
Because we only used 38 last year.
correct. Yeah, the 2023 budget was $12,302.
Again, I'm not sure if it matters in the grand scheme when you're looking at the MS budget.
So are you saying that maybe the 2025 default budget needs to revert back to that 2023 budget
Well, cause
with the individual line items in there?
I don't think that, right, cause even when you look at the MS form for the default budget, I can't remember.
You're just looking at the
Just
categories.
looking at the categories, so I'm
Right.
not saying, I'm just wondering which category that falls in, and if it's a separate line item, if it's supposed to be higher.
Understood. Now that the tax rate's set, I can actually go in and I can draft the default budget form.
So your last budget meeting, you said they wanted us to, what more do they want? I mean, I thought we went through this pretty
Well,
good, and we made it underneath the 4%, I don't know what.
Well, no, we didn't do the warrant articles, so we have to look at the warrant, what we want the warrant articles to be, with the total, and then we might have to cut more in the budget, depending upon that amount, what we want the warrant articles to be. Like, the number you've got right there is, I mean, we're gonna have to cut $600,000 from the budget to hit that number.
Right.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Basically, the warrant articles and everything we did last time would have been fine, but adding in that road reconstruction paving for 600. I thought we cut building maintenance.
So with that being said, we need to get on to warrant articles.
I think so.
I think we have
Only
to.
makes sense to.
Right.
Well, we need that number.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, so looking at the default budget, one for 2024, the welfare subtotal was 37,352. So that would impact a separate section of the budget. Sorry, back to the warrant articles.
Yeah, cause we put that back in our budget.
No, but the default, since the default budget is what passed,
Right.
what's in here right now is what we actually amended it to change it based upon the budget committee recommendations, but it should be reverting back to what's here, which is.
The bottom line will be the same, it's just the makeup of it's gonna change.
Right. So I guess my question is does something else need to move in order to make that adjustment?
Everything has to move.
Word of this potential warrant article has come from the last budget meeting, or?
No, I think Alan had just put together some spot numbers.
This was last year's probably proposal.
Now it's even higher. She did this after she had a couple glasses of wine. Thanksgiving. Feeling hopeful.
So we probably need to leave the police technology fund where it is. Do you agree?
And then the ambulance one, we don't need to include that, right? The
Well, I mean, we
40,000.
still need to include it because it's just gonna, we need to make sure that we know that there's an offsetting revenue so that there's no amount to be raised by taxation, so.
But according to where we need to go to the 4%, it's just basically gonna wash out, correct?
So when doing that math, we don't have to include it, cause it's gonna have a 0% tax.
Correct.
So it's just, the only reason why you have it written here is just because it was on
So
there.
we can either include it and then I need to increase the revenues by the 40,000 in offsetting or whatever the figure might be. We don't know how much,
Okay,
because now we're running 2 ambulances. So we did 40,000 for 23 and 24. Again, it's a wash because your billing's covering it, but if that figure needs to increase to cover the expenditure, then it could be 80,000, we don't know.
How many times do they run both ambulances at the same time now?
I don't think that
Probably
was the
never.
goal, right?
It's not, never. We have run, I mean, they've made a post, they've had to make dual medical calls on some days. Is it high?
We've had the manpower to do it.
Yeah, I don't think it happens all the time.
Probably.
I'm sure it's a very low percentage, but it allows one to go down for maintenance and still have the other one, so.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or the chance that they do have that random call. You
So
know?
the large overhead of getting the second ambulance and re-equipping it like that was one thing. Overall, the cost, like you said, it shouldn't double because we're only typically running one. It's either one or two with the other one in standby. There's been a very small, like probably less than 1%, they've had to try to make 2 calls or, so the 40,000 is probably a safe number. And for the police technology, just looking here at the capital reserve, so we put 10 in each year. She spent 20, we have 20,000 left in there. Is this accurate to the things that we just approved last meeting too, this one here?
That's as of, third quarter, so only through September 30th.
So this is not, the last meeting we approved them to spend the amount that they need, right? She just upgraded.
Yeah, that does not include, no, that withdrawal hasn't been presented to the trustees. They don't meet again until after the first of the year.
Okay, we approved, but I'm just saying, this 20,000 is not an accurate.
Yeah, that's just correct.
Okay, so leave that. Technology, ambulance, fire. We're basically at the,
Well, we can take the fire vehicle one, put that to, we've done it before in the past. We dropped the 100,000 to 75, and then we raised it later on. That was before the 4% we were doing that, so.
I would prefer,
That'd put us at a nice 600,000 for that number after it goes in, if it passes.
yeah,
You know, then the building maintenance fund. And we did a lot this year, and we keep on that same pace, or do we drop that 50 or 25,000?
last meeting we dropped it to 75,000.
Okay, well, we have it, there you go.
I mean, if you bring it down to, that still brings you above what the balance was at the beginning of this year, because we expended pretty much the whole thing before this year started.
So, which is,
So 59,000 would bring it back to about 150, which is what we started the year.
Right, I mean, I was just even looking at the meeting minutes, last meeting, we quickly cut it to 75, because we were trying to make a road reconstruction of at least 160 or something, pull it together. So what do we wanna bring that down to for building maintenance?
well, my question is, you know, to make it easier for me here, is where do we have to be? What is the number?
For,
4% tax cap.
so
The operating budget
400.
plus this,
So based upon the current operating budget, $443,000 between draft is what we could raise with draft warrant articles, am I right?
for current budget that we have in front of us. In here for potential, this is 443 is for potential warrant articles.
Right.
Thank you.
And so by just making the changes we just did, that's a total of 169.
big chunk, cause I mean, you can take another 25,000 off that. I mean, we're sitting right now at,
It's 282,000 right now. We have the grader that's, scheduled for replacement in 2027, but with the issues that we've had,
CIP looks like you guys moved it to 2026.
Well,
It's to fund
I
that
think
use.
that was it already out
I
there?
think, yeah, 2026, you're correct, but,
Yeah, we didn't move that, it was already out there.
it was already on there because it met its useful life 2 years ago. I put it on here for potential consideration because of the issues that we've had with it. It's still over at Windmill. You know, is this one of many that are coming down the road now that it's there? So, I mean, is it something that we need to consider for potential in 2025 and doing a lease purchase? Because we only have 282,000 in the capital reserve fund, so we can't fund the full 484. Or do you just say, no, we've gotta schlep through until 2026 when it's potentially, so at that point, like, would you want to reduce the capital reserve fund knowing that that 484,000 is coming out the following year?
Right.
We have to do something to get to our 4%, that's the whole problem.
yeah, I don't agree with the greater number anyways, but that's my different, because I'm not even sure if we need a greater the size that we have now, since we're not reconstructing or building roads. We're just basically maintaining them with the grader.
We are, but we're not subcontracting any of them as we were in the past either.
Again, for the future purchase of a brand new grader, I'll be in the audience talking about it, but I don't know if we need the biggest, you know, like we're building a highway, when all we do is use the grader as a maintenance item.
He didn't even get a model that can plow.
No one's gonna use it to plow anyways.
No, but this one, the current one is set up so that it can
Sure
plow.
it was, yeah, but that's not gonna happen with the
But
next
that's
one.
just showing where prices have escalated
Everything has,
since the
but I'm
last
just saying
purchase,
though that,
absolutely.
It hasn't been cheaper really for much smaller, right? You only save a teeny bit for.
hey, everything counts now, if it's a hundred thousand less, it's a
I
hundred
know,
grand
but-
less.
But if you get less work done, or, you know,
Okay, that's, I'm throwing my opinion out on that, this issue, which I'll do again later on, but. Cause that's where you gotta sit, I mean, if that's gonna be the big purchase, you gotta wonder if that's that warrant article right now.
yeah,
I mean, if
that's the whole thing.
if we're gonna purchase a $500,000 equipment, you can't take any money out of it. Or your equipment, you'll just never get it, we won't have the money for it, we take it out.
That's the whole thing.
So.
So we need to come to a budget that's 4%, doesn't mean on deliberation they couldn't increase it.
Correct,
Somebody from the floor could get up and say,
yes, that's,
this is stupid, let's increase it from whatever we cut it to where it needs to.
That is correct.
The budget committee can't recommend higher than 4%,
They cannot.
but at deliberative session, it can be increased, but there's still a 10% limitation.
Up by 10%.
10% on top of the
total.
recommendation.
Yeah.
For that particular article.
No, from the
Oh.
bottom line for everything.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah.
Very highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely.
Right,
That's that, yeah. I don't think we have to worry about that.
so if we just quickly, for number's sake, we have this paving
Quote.
quote here. This is from R&D, and this is for the rest of,
Yep, it would be taking care of the small section that's left on Deerfield, which would go from the Fundy boat launch to Stevens Hill Road. It also takes care of Lucas Pond Road, which is delaminating probably at a much more accelerated rate. That's a half mile that's in Nottingham that's impacted.
Seems to be the worst part.
Paving the,
Only a half mile?
yeah, it's 2,650 feet. There is the dirt section of Stevens Hill Road that was proposed last year, as well as the aprons on multiple dirt roads into intersections. those are all listed. Priest, South Summer, Isle Smoke Street, Mountain Road Group, off 156 Cooper Hill.
So the fine grade and compact, that's the aprons.
Yes, which we did ourselves with the last section of Deerfield Road.
Yeah, and then,
Plus the paving, so it's
So this quote,
155.
so what Steve was saying is if we needed to cut money off of this quote, the 439,000 that it comes in at, what they could potentially do is just mill down the sections that have the remaining sections that delaminated on Deerfield and patch them to see if we can get through for next year. But he was doing that with caution because we don't know what is going to happen to him over the winter.
correct.
Obviously, the other end of it was in much worse shape than he was expecting it to be. He was expecting that section from Stevens Hill back to Fundy Cove to be the section that really needed to be addressed, but tables turned over the winter.
If we had to, we could do away with the aprons.
So that's a total of 134.
Actually 150, right? Did the fine grade and compact plus the pave.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, so Deerfield is 92,000, Lucas Pond.
Plus the.
Plus the 9850 for milling it.
It's
So
us.
Yeah, it's not like
Subtotals.
subtotal, so then Lucas Pond would be the
Next section.
next chunk down, which is, okay, that's down to the 52, and then Stevens Hill. Is this just paving the beginning portion of Stevens Hill to the next paved portion?
Yes.
It's like gravel, paved, gravel.
So that looks like it's like 3/4 of a mile.
Yep.
And then the aprons, depending on which one it was, how far.
Right.
Like Priesty was gonna try to get to the rear of the fire station, whereas others, it would just be,
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to do that for sure.
Well, the one thing about Priest is next year, 2025, they're shutting down to remove the bridge, and the bypass is Priest Road.
Right.
Which the state said that they're not assisting with additional wear.
well, they're detours over state route, but we know everybody's gonna take,
Correct. Everybody in town going to the recycling center, et cetera, going to school, back and forth, Priest Road is gonna see,
A huge increase.
correct. So I'm gonna see if we can kinda cut this paving one.
he did wanna try to keep the warrant article at 600,000 to restore it back to that, because, with the remaining 100,000+, he still needs to add a lot of gravel to,
It won't pass. I don't think it'd pass.
500.
Not even close.
And I get it, it would be, you know, but a lot of people that vote no on this live on 152, and their route looks great, so they're like, I don't know what Lucas Pond looks like, but it's,
So for Deerfield Road, it's about 100,940. For Stevens Hill, it's about 192. So that'd be 292,000, or 293 for those two roads alone. $17,000 just to do the apron of Priest. So like $310,000 would cover those three things.
Right. Cause I mean, nothing against Cooper Hill, but how much traffic does that get?
Well, I don't think you do Cooper Hill because it's gonna get reconstructed in a year anyway.
Right.
Right, yeah, I don't think Cooper Hill makes sense.
No, 2 years, I think.
Deerfield Road, what'd you say, 101,947? Lucas Pond is 68,352. Stevens Hill Road is 114,307. Where did you pull the just Priest Road out?
I was just doing an estimate based upon the total,
Okay, if you did
roughly divided by nine, the 9 aprons. Same size.
So these three roads here, what, is just under 285. And you were thinking what for that Priest Hill apron? If, I'm just saying, if we drop this down to 300, it could be these 3 paving jobs. The Stevens Hill one is like a really, we hear about that one on Facebook all the time in terms of the first 100 yards of it turns into a mud bog, and we've tried to rebuild it several times. Lucas Pond is gonna become a safety thing, that one is falling apart, and it would be nice to finish up Deerfield so that like that whole area of town is just finished and we can start focus on something else. But if we come down to 300, we got 3 paving jobs and that apron of Priest Road up to the fire station, plus whatever else we have on our paving.
We need to get that broken down, because it would be, it'd be short.
Well, don't we, we have a little bit extra something, right? Don't we have a little bit
We got
extra?
$30,000 in the highway fund, 32,348.
I have my papers. We didn't have anything really for road reconstruction the last time we went through it, but now all of a sudden, right, putting that number up puts us over, so I think 300,000 puts us in a better spot with like 4 defined jobs, and Priest Road, I think, was gonna get that extra wear and tear, people pulling in and out because of the bridge job.
You leave it as one warrant article, or you separate it out?
I'd leave it as one. It's not gonna be a huge dollar amount like last year when we did it.
If you do it as just a $300,000.
Right.
It puts us a lot closer to the number. We have defined jobs here, we got a cost, we can at least, that gets us way closer.
But then if you put $300,000 in this warrant article, you've only got about $83,000 left, remainder.
For which part, the highway truck or?
No, just
For all, because the total
the
amount
rest.
here, if you're looking at the operating budget,
Yeah,
the total amount that we could do here would be about $383,000.
So then next we have to consider,
I'm sorry, 443, 443, I'm sorry.
so then we still consider, is there 75 or 50 grand out of, we need to take it out of the operating budget?
is there, go back to the operating budget quickly, was there a pavement line in the operating budget?
There should be money in the operating budget for
Road reconstruction.
right, because that's what we used this past year.
But we took it out last year.
Yeah, but we're talking our default budget's based off our previous default budget.
But
No.
again, that's the total highway budget.
There's nothing in there. They're to be discussed. It would be,
I see, yeah, you got it, they're on page 8 down at the bottom. What's the offsetting revenue for that line? 180.
that's your highway block funds that you get. Technically, your highway block funds, we receive them in as a revenue. They just go into the general fund, but technically they're supposed to be used strictly for highway improvements.
Highway block fund, not these block funds.
Correct. Those were special block funds.
So what?
We get a quarterly appropriation based on the length of municipally maintained roads. Town and state maintained roads. The population, there's a formula that calculates how much we get.
And where does that go? Is that on here?
Is it on here? Nope. It comes in just as a revenue into the
Okay,
general
just
fund.
into the town, okay, I'm sorry. Kinda, so we don't keep track of that per se, so. We have 180 here, we're gonna use that.
invasive species back in the operating budget?
No, we put
The boat checkers. The graders, that's what we're calling.
Yeah, cause the invasive species is an expendable trust fund, so it has to be a separate warrant article.
Okay.
Any withdrawal from or addition to has to be separate.
So if we do 300 for roads, you're saying 443 is the absolute?
based upon the current operating budget.
The ambulance we're considering a wash, so we don't have to count that one?
Correct. The tech fund really can't go away because that's our obligation to pay for the,
Body cameras and
body
everything.
cam.
Ambulance we're not counting, invasive species has to be here.
Why is it the trust fund has 74,000 up
Be-
in the,
Because we got 100% grant funding through the DES Invasive Species Control Fund this year. Next year, we're looking at, could be anywhere from 25 to 40% match, so we'll be on the hook for the rest of it. And their presentation that Neil Santos had given, they were estimating that it was gonna be
75.
I was gonna say 60 to 75,000 for treatment, so we're on the hook for a good portion of that. And who knows what next year is going to be.
Right.
so you're saying we shouldn't touch that?
If you care about the quality of your lake,
I think we ought.
Well, it impacts taxes pretty much.
absolutely.
Highway truck, I don't think we should really touch. Where's the CIP for fire right now? What's the next one we got out? Should be the tanker.
Fire,
It's not even on our plan.
Oh, good.
It was potentially earmarked for 2028, but I think it got bumped off.
right, then
Further-
there's ambulance in 2028. CPA stuff is 26, that's 40,000 on the CIP. How much is
So let's just do this, just to make this, we keep bouncing back and forth. So let's get a number for our potential warrant articles. And then let's go to the budget and see where we have to cut. And then we have to move and play some numbers around to satisfy one or the other, but and we should all be able to make, here's our standard, 7 warrant articles here. What's that number gonna be? It's gonna be road construction, 300,000. We're gonna put the highway truck reserve down to 75 or 50. Are we gonna take the building maintenance fund going to 50,000, or are we going to 75? Let's make a decision on just getting these, so we have a hard number that we're sitting at.
That's kind of what I'm going through by saying the road is this. If Tim's saying with the operating budget as we've proposed, we only have 443, there's really nothing. We cut a ton out of the operating budget already.
Right,
So
so if
the
we're,
cuts really gotta come from these warrant articles. And then the two $10,000 ones can't be cut. We just talked about the issue we have with the grader. Regardless of what we're purchasing, we need to be planning for that. So it either needs to be 100 or 75. I do not see a fire truck on CIP,
There is not an active request for one.
no,
and
It only goes out the current plus 5.
now just quickly asking for these trust funds, does the fire and rescue vehicle count the ambulance as
No,
well?
no,
no, the ambulance is a separate fund that comes out of the
Correct.
special revenue fund.
So we might be able to just lower that down. The next thing that's gonna be replaced in the fire department is most likely the tanker. That's the oldest piece of equipment, but it is running reliably. It doesn't get a ton of use, so. And it's not even on the next 6 years of CIP.
Must be some money in here for that though, right? I'm not seeing,
And where? It's, the fire truck is the second one down.
It's the fire and rescue vehicle fund,
Which is sitting at
which is also the
533.
SCBA.
533, right, which, yes, that includes the SCBA, and that's on CIP for 2026 for 40,000.
Okay,
we're gonna drop that to 50, cut it in half?
I'd say at least, probably, we're gonna have to.
well, if you go the other way, we have 443,000 to spend for warrant articles, and we say 300,000 we need for roads that are in serious disrepair, that leaves the 143 number, of which 20,000 of it is the police tech and invasive species, so now we're down to
123.
123. So then you gotta look, 123 between the fire
Fire,
vehicle SCBA, building, and the highway
highway.
truck. And I don't think we have enough in our highway truck based on the,
So do we need, what do we talk about, 75 for building maintenance?
It's gonna have to come below that.
Yeah, I think probably
thinking like
50,
50?
yeah.
or even lower.
So that brings you to 160 for those top 4 warrant articles.
Leaving the fire and highway at what?
Well, then that's what's next.
That's what's next.
$235,000 for the next 3. 225 if you take out invasive species.
I think road reconstruction needs to be at 3. Based off what we looked at right here, I mean, we're not even going anything crazy, this is
Right.
roads that are literally falling apart. Fire vehicle SCBA,
25?
We should keep something in there.
Right.
Yes.
Definitely gotta keep something in there, because,
You don't want
keep
to
it
go away.
building,
right,
trucks are not getting any cheaper.
I mean, I was thinking 50, but,
well, we're not gonna have that much if we,
well, again,
So if you cut that to 50, then you're at 110 for those 4, so then between highway truck and road reconstruction.
Roads has to be 3. I don't see how we can be any less than 3.
no, I agree with Matt.
So then you're thinking you put 30 grand into the highway truck reserve?
I'm thinking the highway truck needs to be like 70, and the fire vehicle is gonna have to be low, and maybe nothing on building maintenance. We have about 100,000 left in building maintenance.
Put something in there, like maybe like 10. That would bring
Maybe,
us
like
back
split
up
the
to
numbers
like-
around a little bit, but the grader is a looming failure right now. Regardless of which one we buy it, if it's 350, 375, 450, like, it isn't gonna come in that cheap. We got a question from we got a hand in the audience there, John.
Consider that the 4% budget cap limits the budget committee and not you, and the warrant article proposed, the budget committee says, well, we don't recommend it because we have to stay under our cap.
Then it will, most likely will not pass, and that's what happened last year with the warrant articles, the budget committee didn't recommend. Those are the ones that
Sometimes they
failed.
do pass.
I'd rather focus on getting them to pass, and then if people amend them at deliberative,
Well,
personally, that's how I feel, but.
you have some things on your wish list. I wanna put them in and roll the dice.
we rolled the dice
Yeah,
before and
last year
lost.
didn't work.
Yeah,
But there's sometimes we did win, because there was things like, I didn't think the building maintenance fund for I didn't think that was gonna pass, but that actually passed. And that was something where I didn't, in my opinion, but,
Just saying you might wanna discuss it.
in my mind, we have 123,000 to break up between the fire vehicle, building maintenance, and highway truck. 50 for highway truck, 30 or 40 for the fire vehicle, and the remainder of the building maintenance. I know we have a lot of building maintenance coming up still, it's impending, but
But a lot of the stuff in the back, we haven't committed that full warrant article to yet.
Correct.
There's still some money left over there to keep wrapping up that part of the building.
which we need to commit by the end
That
of.
was not lapsing.
That one was on that thing, okay. So even with that being said, a lot of that goes to the back, we can,
Yeah, that's $50,000 completely separate from the building maintenance expendable.
So, if we keep, all right, keep 10,000 at police tech. If we do 25,000 in fire. 50,000 building maintenance. 10,000 in invasive species. 300,000 in road reconstruction. That leaves us 48,000 for highway truck.
and I
And
think
if we put that to 50,000, maybe we could find 2,000 in the regular budget.
that, or even, I think the building maintenance has room to come down a little bit. I mean, we're still sitting with 100,000.
I mean,
We've
that's
re-
what we spent in 2023.
We did, we replaced so many systems that we shouldn't have to replace every furnace in town again.
Well, that,
Years.
the library septic came out of that too, that was like $46,000.
But that was this year.
Yeah.
24.
Yeah, but this worksheet that I
Oh.
gave you is reflective of everything.
So what about like the library stuff, the ADA, stuff like that, can that, no, cause that's grounds,
Correct.
so we need more article for that stuff. If we're gonna do that.
Do you have a number?
We had a rough number of 100,000 based on some quotes that's like completely do the full job.
Having it subcontracted.
Right.
Steve went out and looked at it, and there's a lot that the highway department can do.
Lot that
The
we
site
could do
work.
internal. It's mostly gonna be like paving stuff that we can't do.
Correct.
So, you could probably guesstimate a paving number based on road stuff, or, and what about like the, sidewalk here too?
So I think we'd have to consider having the remainder of that come out of the ARPA funds.
Yep, that was 6,200.
So
That was the other commitment for,
That would leave you about 10,000 in ARPA.
Some of that, so which one, the sidewalk?
yep.
Yep.
Could we use some of that for the library too?
Potentially, if you had a quote that we were gonna do all the maintenance to get the path built, and then they can at least give us something that said, yes, and this year we're gonna pay you 10,000 to pave this, if we thought it was gonna be that. So we would probably need to have that by next meeting.
And that's something that needs to be done this year,
Well,
wants to be done. Or
No,
next.
there's definitely a need presented. I mean, right now, if something should happen in that building, you're on the lower level, you're going out to an island with no escape.
right,
for-
it's a safety concern, so it really needs to happen. Doing it sooner rather than later helps the CIP stuff.
We go to the right side where that road is,
The right side of the building where the, you mean the neighbor's driveway?
not the neighbor's drive, but where they brought all the material down. Back
Yeah,
of the
so
Is
there,
that the neighbor's property?
no, so that,
thinking if we could drive trucks down there, it'd be probably an easier spot to put a,
so there's a grade, it would have to be graded, depending on slope and stuff like that, it may need to have rails on both sides, which would then block that area. So there's some things we need to kind of figure out.
just spitballing.
Yeah, no, exactly, that's why we went last week and talked about this stuff. So that basically you have two sides of the building, two different options.
Left side of the building is far steeper grade.
It, it's I mean, the elevation change is approximately the same, no matter which side. So it's just a matter of, I don't know if Steve was able to get over there and shoot elevations and stuff yet.
I don't know if you did or not.
So he was gonna look at some of that stuff. From a perspective of ease, it would make, on the right side, it's probably the most straightforward, cheapest way, depending on how much that slope is, what we would have to do. If we have to do two railings, it becomes a different problem, because then we would block vehicles from being hit down there. Right, so, yeah, there's all kinds of considerations yet. And it's shorter, the one door is only partway to the back on the left side, so you'd have to go from that all the way around. Oh yeah, and it's kind of close to the building. There's some wet area there too that we gotta consider.
Just so close to our budget,
I know.
and it'd be nice if it could be put off for a bit of time so we could actually formulate a plan versus just throwing money at it.
And we're trying to figure it out the right way. And with Steve being able to do most of the stuff in-house, that saves us a
Ton of money.
yeah, a ton. How much is that sidewalk?
6,200. Runs down the side of the building. There's a rough path there.
Highway just has to do some site work, they have to do
Right.
some drainage, and we
I'm
have to
just
get the
curious
gutters.
how long that is.
Oh, how long and length?
Is it,
I'm
I'm just thinking approximately, and it doesn't even have to, the ADA stuff may not even have to be paved. It's just trying to get a rough number.
I have the quote from the CIP request, just pull it up.
So, to the warrant articles we have currently, if we end up doing the site work over at the library and we're looking at a $10,000 or whatever, we kinda have that in ARPA, or we could even potentially throw that out for fundraising to be like, help us build our ramp for $10,000, we could probably get that within town, but for what we have right now, police tech stays there, ambulance is at 40, cause that's got an offsetting revenue, so I'm not really counting it.
Right, exactly, don't count that one.
But we need to set them. The fire vehicle, I'm thinking 30,000. Building maintenance at 18, highway truck 75, invasive stays at 10, and road at 300, and that's at our 443 number. I think the highway, fire, and building are the only ones we can swap around depending on, but I really think we need to be building up the highway one for a greater replacement. We're only at 282. Putting 75 in there puts us, in the mid-3s. And then depending on, and then we can maybe limp through next year depending on what we can fix or whatever.
John, your question, the walkway is 200 feet, and they're proposing 4 foot wide for ADA compliance, 3 inches of hot asphalt.
So I'd imagine it's probably pretty similar price,
Yeah.
maybe even a hair it's not as long going down the side of the library.
Yeah, but they're gonna have to,
Right,
Probably
based on
just
the
some-
grade, you can only have a certain grade for wheelchair access.
right, so we're talking extended distance probably for,
Let's just count it at 6,200.
you know,
When's reevaluation due? Next year?
2025.
And how short are we on that fund?
1 year. No, we're about the same. So that's not,
We have,
do we have a warrant article for that, or did we put that in the budget?
It didn't pass this year. Excuse me. The revaluation fund has
80,000.
80,470, so it's $20,000 short.
and is that in the general, or?
Normally have a warrant article for that. We normally have a warrant article for it.
Yeah, we're gonna need one.
We're gonna need one, we're gonna need 20,000 for that.
Out of the roads and try to pave what we can, and if we don't get to the end of the Priest Road, we don't get to the end of Priest Road. We're this far without it, so it's something that we can have there.
Oh, you mean that apron?
The apron.
So before that, what did you have allocated for the road reconstruction and paving?
300. When I did the math out off this quote, which we haven't received 3 quotes, but it's a rough quote. I think when I did the math out on these 3, I think we were at 280.
I just can't get it to come out. It was well over the 443. So we had 10 at the police tech, 40 for the ambulance, 30 for the fire vehicle SCBA, 18 for building maintenance, 75 for the highway truck, 10 for the invasive species, 300 now, 280 for the road reconstruction, and 20,000 for the revale. Is that correct?
You have to add the 40 for the ambulance where it's offsetting.
We still have to have the warrant article where,
We have to, yeah, but no, like,
It doesn't count to the
yeah, it
bottom
doesn't
line.
count towards the 443. That's where I was off.
yeah. Evaluation 20,000, so that's. So doing the numbers, the road, the 3 paving jobs is basically 285,000. Should probably shift 5 to at least have these 3 jobs accounted for and have the road reconstruction be 285. Take it off the truck, make the truck 70,000 for a highway truck. I don't think we can drop the others that much more right now.
Can you go through those totals again then?
Police tech, 10, ambulance at 40, fire vehicle, 30, building maintenance reserve, 18, highway truck, 70, invasive species, 10, road reconstruction at 285, the evaluation for 20,000.
The reevaluation, do you think we should have a warrant article, or should we put it back into the general budget?
It, there's a capital reserve fund, so we add to it every year leading up to it,
It has to be a
and then
warrant.
expend from there,
Oh.
correct? I mean,
It could go in the regular budget
yeah,
for this, because it's gonna be spent this
People
year.
voted down.
It's gonna get spent this year no matter what.
yeah.
I'm just thinking it might be less likely to go down if it was,
Correct. It's just another $20,000 into the budget. But we would have to keep that number. We wouldn't be able to add that back to the warrant articles. We would just swap back.
Right, exactly. In some respect, it maybe makes sense to put it in the budget for this year. cause we have to spend it there anyway.
That way, if it's not voted down, I mean, if it is
It's
voted down.
statutory, right?
It's
We
statutory.
have to do it. So-
Correct, if it were to be voted down, then that's a $20,000 hit we have to scrape out of somewhere afterwards.
Put it in the budget.
Yeah, put it in the budget.
So then you'd still leave all the other warrant articles the same.
They're still the same
Right,
280.
yeah, we can't,
Still,
so we're basically down to,
bottom line's the same.
yeah, 423 instead of 443.
Yep. Does anybody have any other strong feelings one way or the other on any of that? I don't think that's asking for too much for paving, and these are kind of three.
I think having the details in the warrant article of those 3 roads, the portion of them is gonna be important.
Correct. It still has that caveat, or has other crisis. Definitely during the deliberative, definitely
I
having
think
pictures.
we need to put together something prior to the deliberative, to put on our website or something about each warrant article.
Right.
You know, why it's, especially for the roads.
So we've set warrant articles, and then where do you put that 20,000 in the budget?
Probably under, it would be under the assessing,
What page?
I gotta get there, page 2 maybe? 2, 3, page 3. And
Assessing.
Valuation, so.
I don't have a line item, you could probably throw it under appraisal, which is at 4152210-398. That's technically where our Avatar assessing software gets expended, but it is an appraisal of values, so it makes sense.
Just on your thing, if that's the Avatar assessing software, why is that not up on the 029 software license?
I can't answer that, it's the way the chart of accounts is set up.
Okay.
Cause it's our appraisal software, it's not, I don't know.
I wanted to put it in here.
I think there might have been something different when there was a board of assessors, so this was, you know, a budget
Is that-
adopted separately.
That's 0 anyway.
I mean, if we wanna get into semantics, we could probably move the software up there and then just leave the appraisal to be the remaining reval.
Whatever, or if it needs to be its own budget, I'm penning it in here, so then that changes this final page item. We lowered it 2,000 earlier, and now we're increasing it 20,000.
So, you know,
Story of our life.
anything else in
But does that, where are we numbers wise?
But if you add that, it does, it's, because we reduced the warrant articles to 4.
Right, I mean, we did take the 2,000 out of the, so do we have any to put back to the operating budget? I'm saying if we took that 2,000 out.
What's the $2,000 you're talking about?
For
We took
Courtney's,
Courtney's computers.
Computers.
Oh, okay.
We reduced a line
like page 9.
on page 10. The rec office supplies went from 3,200 to 1,200. Because we're gonna fund the computers out of ARPA, so I'm just saying if we had the budget numbers all matched before at the 4%, we have roughly 2,000. What line item do we need to put that in, or do we put 2,000 into a warrant article, but at least have the max appropriation we can?
So are we temporary good with where we stand on what these warrant article numbers are gonna be? So here's a dilemma. Okay, since we cut these down here and we left our budget the way it sits there without making, I mean, cause I was just going through here and I was thinking of things I could cut, an extra, 20,000 probably finding out of the highway department to cut. And again, these are nasty things to talk about, but I'm gonna say them anyways, cause that's what we're here to do. I know we want the rec money to go back in, so we pay her salary instead of doing it the other way, but that's 35K. And the executive line, is there 10K we can find in there? And then we could just, roll that up to, that back and roll to 300? Cause what we leave in here has potential of being asked to be cut, by the budget committee.
I think
So we
there's,
can leave the fat the way it is here, propose the warrant articles at the skinny here, alright, and watch them cut this, and then, we'll be definitely under the 4%. If they can find a cut out of here, an extra 80 grand out of this budget or whatever here, and we keep our warrant articles at the skinny that we are,
Then we'd adjust them.
If the warrant articles are at the skinny, they have a higher chance of passing than if they're inflated. If there's any fat in the highway, and then let's say
Yeah,
we
but I
do decide we wanna pave Priest Road for $10,000, and he has 10,000 in his budget, we can line adjust down to the shim and seal coat or whatever that's supposed to be, and make that 10,000 down there, right? Like, we can, but if we cut it,
well, like,
if we hinder ourselves, we don't have.
like John,
any-
we just said the reval, 20K,
Yeah,
and putting that back in the budget is definitely the way to go,
yeah,
and not as a warrant article.
right,
We'll agree with that, right?
Yeah.
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 I think we made the road reconstruction what it needs to be to address immediate concerns in the town. Everything else, the apron work, is kind of in the want section, depending on how the winter goes. I wouldn't wanna take too much out of his budget, but then if we get into the spring and the winter happened to be favorable, we could pave that apron portion at that point, like that's up to Steve's discretion. Along with us, but you know what I mean, like he can.
What killed us last year, we got that late storm, and we had
Yeah.
the budget all crap.
And even then, you can still see the remnants of that storm all around town, blowing down trees up 150, like, the state just abandoned half trees right next to the road, which will probably impact how they're gonna be doing road cleanup, cause there's pine trees within
Right, oh yeah.
the
it's
pushback
just-
area.
Yep,
So,
yeah, it's a mess.
I don't know. I do hear what you're saying, John, like, put it in here, but there's really not.
Right.
The only thing we would probably be adding to, well, no, I guess we have 4 that can be, right, fire vehicle, building maintenance, but then it's not even usable to us if something comes up, because if it gets stuck in the highway truck reserve fund, unless you're buying a dump truck, it isn't coming out. Which, we're rebuilding a motor on one truck right now, we're hoping that, does he have any reports on anything, or crisis is coming up on his end? Steve seems relatively resourceful in terms of vehicles moving, so.
It's tough to predict where the crises are gonna be when they're called the crisis, cause usually it's just what's gonna,
Right. But the safety blanket of ARPA is gone, so,
yeah, that's,
Right. That's gone, we're using that up.
and leaving those highway block funds, we have 30,000 for emergency stuff for the highway department if need be, if we break another truck or need an engine replacement again. I don't know how much more we can really,
Right, we just gotta be careful where we're spending money.
The bridges, the SB 401, can that include culverts, or is it just?
which is tough, because we don't actually have a lot of bridges in town.
no, we don't.
The bridges that we own,
But the money doesn't expire, so if something should happen, then
right, I think,
Well,
what are
We
the,
got a lot that we gotta replace.
right, we got those coming up,
the box culverts.
right, do they count as bridges? Well, yeah, we should put a real bridge.
Yes. That's a lot of money, though.
I think McCrillis has a bridge.
Just be for engineering.
That Berry Road is gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, you see hindering coming up here, right, like those are bonds though.
Yeah, well, so that was, based on Sean McLean's proposals, and that would be contracting it out. Steve's confident that they can do the replacements in-house. It would be, we have to, have them designed probably like a precast concrete through like Mitchie or Shea, whomever, and then it would just be our install. So that number that we're working with on CIP is going to reduce, but we're waiting on the design from CMA. We had paid for that engineering portion for them to design the culverts that are needed. And once we know what we have to work with, we can get a price and figure out how much that can actually be reduced from the plan.
So that thing on Kelsey is actually
Yep.
a culvert, it's not a bridge.
Correct.
So what do we have for bridges?
It's wide now.
What do we actually have for bridges in town?
There's one on McCrillis that is town owned. And that's as far as I know.
Well, you got Deerfield Road, that's now a box bridge,
A bridge or a
corner.
box culvert.
not a culvert, it's a bridge.
The John Fernald Bridge right there, right at the.
Nottingham town bridges include, here's our educational seminar for the evening. As soon as it opens, bear with me.
Reese Road Bridge too? Where the river, the North River goes through?
Freeman Hall, you're talking
Freeman
about.
Hall, yeah.
That's a culvert.
We have two on Deerfield Road at Back Creek and Bean River.
Wait, how much?
Two on Deerfield, one at Back Creek and one at Bean River. Freeman Hall Road at North River, McCrillis at North River. Kennard, which is Little River, Smoke Street, Little River, and Mill Pond Road, Little River. Those are our
Oh, Smoke Street. by the-
7,
Seven?
by the,
none of which are on the
By
red
the
list.
entrance to the
On what?
None of which are on the red list.
Yeah,
I couldn't
well,
think of the word.
That's good, so.
Yes. And they're all precast except for the one in Kennard.
So they're precast
Yep.
bridges. So.
The one on
what's the
Kennard's
difference between
aluminum or
a precast
iron.
bridge and a box culvert?
Maybe they drop it in, I don't know.
The bridge has two abutments with a precast top that they set down. A box culvert is two culverts with pavement and gravel put on top. Yeah. From the top of the road, it's a lot different, but.
So are we good from here, and then we can present to the budget committee on, although I know the school's on Thursday.
School's on Thursday, so they will be addressing the town again until next Thursday.
But my question was, we have 2,000 extra we cut out, do we need to put that somewhere? From the computers, right? Are we still underneath the 4%? We were underneath the 4% with the budget we had on.
I plugged in the figures. If I use the updated revenues from when we set the tax rate, which the updated revenues were $2,473,897. I show that we're $1,687 short for meeting that 4% tax cap with warrant articles and operating budget.
So that 2,000 covers.
I factored that in there. We're still short about $1,687.
Okay.
But I can honestly find that just looking at, I mean, if we could take it from the fire department fuel, they have $10,000, they've spent $3,000.
Yeah.
And that's been historically over the past couple of years. There's some budget that can,
No, there's
Be
no
reduced.
And if you need to, tell us what it is. So then for ARPA money, for next time when we come, we have to say we're,
yep.
so everything needs,
So everything that we've technically earmarked, we need to have some type of a solid quote pulled together for it.
so the server for around 16K or 17K.
It is here somewhere. I did the same thing, I have too much paperwork.
16.7.
16,672, I think.
Let's call it, just for 17K for that, 30 for the conference room, 6,200
For the sidewalk.
for the sidewalk,
It's 54,200, 55,200.
in additional, I see what you're saying.
And what's that leave us with?
About $7,000.
Which would roughly be the sidewalk to the library if you get us a number by next meeting.
It'd been nice to use it.
If he has to come in with hard numbers for the conference room,
Alan does, yeah.
correct? And if you find a number for the oil tank swap,
We'd never do it,
it has to be
You just have to commit it,
If, we don't have to
just a
swap it.
formal commitment.
If Irving comes in and says, this is what it's gonna be to swap back and forth, and we'll do it in July, we can do that.
We don't have to fully expend it until
but.
20.
Right, I get that. I'm just saying, coming up with that number could be difficult.
There's gotta be somebody out there that wants to earn money right now, so.
Did we get a cost to remove those?
When we started 2 years ago, we had a rough number. When I started 2 years ago.
I think John Scruton got it just before I came on.
But it was around the $10,000 mark. But that was,
Fire in it.
no, that was withdrawing oil tanks and building an exterior building with above-ground oil tanks and heating and everything, where we came up with a different solution of, let's go to propane, because the system we have installed, that it said that we could swap our furnaces here over to propane, and we could put tanks underground and never have to do it.
That would be up to Irvin to come and say, I can put a tank here.
And there's other companies out there.
Well, he'll give us the tank.
Well, Irving's who we have our fuel
Right,
contract
right.
through.
That's why I'm saying that was me.
No, that's right, but we'd be buying the tanks, I don't know, whatever.
No, you wouldn't buy the
No, they
tank.
give you the tank if you're doing the service.
They'll give you the
Okay.
tank,
The problem is,
but you're tied in with them.
right,
Not that any other company wouldn't buy the tank from them.
right.
And then it depends on where the septic is.
But budget seems good to send them, and then we just, the rest is, what else we got left to do? Oh, we do hazard mitigation.
You have to do that resolution.
Tim, you're gonna sit the budget meeting? How do you feel about where we're sitting right now?
Fine.
What the budget committee does with it, then we can
Really not.
readjust.
Are you gonna have this for your meeting, just so that they know what we're,
Ellen does the heavy lifting. I'm there for moral support.
But you get to sit at the table.
So next meeting, we have lawyers, finalize what we're gonna need for the ARPA money. Those are two big things right there. Obviously, we might be reviewing the budget again.
not for this year.
Yeah, our final budget has to be to the budget committee for January 2nd.
Okay, so we will.
So,
Oh, right there.
Yeah, this was very preliminary discussion on the warrant articles.
I think it was good that we said it, I mean, I don't really know how much arguing we can do back and forth, there's not a lot of wiggle room.
well, I mean, just, you know, I mean, we're going in with, this is where we sit here, and what we did was we reduced a lot of our warrant, I mean. Right?
Yeah.
But again, it's a
Which is
little-
what I told them in their last meeting.
It's a little, okay, that's good, so it's a little different way than what normally has happened over the
And
years,
that's
so-
what we explained, is that we're kind of working backwards. But that's the way you kind of have to do it for it to make sense.
Right, I mean, if there's stuff that they, you know, tweak down in the budget, we could put more towards more articles that we think we need. It's just a matter of how much do we put there.
Yeah,
Because
but
we
they-
definitely, we have the need for it in those warrant articles, it's just, what can we afford to put there?
Okay. But like it was passed, so I mean, is it their budget, it's our budget to present what we want to present?
Well, it's our budget until they take it, and then it's their budget.
That's, I can't, that's where I'm going with this right here.
It's their budget.
Even if they go and they cut something out here, and we go back and we put it someplace else, we're going back to do the same thing. They're still going, I mean.
Right, then they can still cut it again.
They can still
Right,
cut it.
And they will cut it, at, their budget hearing, that's when it's final.
Right. Alright. Everybody at home get that?
It's the budget committee's budget that gets,
Right, we go back and forth with the budget committee, changing numbers around and putting numbers around to try to appeal them to, and also appeal to what we want. You know, but then at the end of the game, at the end of the day, when we have the open discussion with the public, what the budget committee does, that's when it becomes, whatever it is, it becomes final.
Right.
when is that open discussion of the budget?
But we have the hearing.
It must have,
The public hearing, we don't
Is
have
that
to
part
set
of
it.
the setting of
Yeah, it's in the
calendar?
It's in the calendar.
right, it's gotta be
I don't know.
between X and Y days, you have.
That's different than the deliberative session.
I don't have that folder on.
I have it. One moment, please.
Yeah, that is different from, that's different deliberative session.
The budget.
Right, deliberative session is when it becomes the budget to be
Put on the ballot.
presented on the ballot.
Okay, when is that public hearing?
I'm pulling it up
He's
right
looking
now.
at it now.
It should be, all these dates should be available on our website. They are.
Yep, they're all on the town calendar too. Town budget hearing is January
Just like when the
14th,
dump's open.
and then the school is January 16th. The school is January 16th.
And I hope all the employees at Nottingham had a nice day off on Friday. You all deserve it. So I'm happy that we were able to offer you guys all the day off on Friday. Sorry for the inconvenience of people that couldn't make it to the recycling center. That's from me. Thank you.
We have one other thing here.
Yeah, well,
John, we'll
Yeah, let's go.
budget on cold turkey on Friday.
yeah, okay. We're gonna go to the hazard mitigation. Where did we have?
It's just a signature form, but the actual plan,
Do we have to do anything besides?
Did you guys wanna read this?
have it resolved.
We don't need a motion, we
Yes.
just need, we do
You
need.
need a motion to sign, accept the plan.
Accept.
Anybody wanna read the plan? I read it.
I've read it.
That's,
You guys all
that's
read it?
not really the whole plan, it's just the,
Well, I mean,
right, it's the signature, yeah.
before we vote on it, I'm asking if anybody wants to see it again before we do it. We all good? Okay then, forget it.
John, another shout out to the town website. That plan is there, available for the town to look at. So again, one of the things we should really praise this town on is we got a lot of great information on town website.
We do, I look at it every day.
Good.
Anybody wanna make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the 2024 hazard mitigation plan.
I'll second.
Who wants it?
Whoever.
Matters racing.
Matt have it.
Okay, we'll go with Matt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
And thank you to all the people that spent the past 18 months putting that together.
Who was that, Tim? Who put it together?
Police, fire, our wonderful town administrator. We had a member from the public. And we had
Highway?
Stratford, highway, Stratford Planning Regional.
Yep.
Involved in that too. Multiple meetings, over 8 meetings over that period of time.
5. Lots of reading.
All right. I kinda went over what we're gonna do at next meeting. I already said that for
Yep.
where we're going on it. Public comment. Okay.
He already had his public comment.
Non-public, 5 minutes.
I mean, I
For
agree with
what?
you.
Yay, for personnel.
You all set? I'll make a
So
motion.
we're got, thank you for your time tonight, Nottingham. We're gonna go to non-public right now for quick thing. Once we leave non-public, we will recess the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting immediately, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Make a motion to move into non-public RSA 91-A:32A.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call vote.
Aye. Steve Welch.
Hi, John Decker.
Hi, John Moran.
Aye, Tim DeBrio.
Aye, Matt Sherlin.
Good night, Nottingham.